Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back. I am back to work on my game engine. I meant to hop on about 4 or 5 hours ago, but had some guys who needed to do some work in my apartment today, and so I put it off. I'll have to do something similar on Monday. They're going to be working again in the morning, and then I'll have to pop on after that. But anyway, last time we had been working on these guys, on the multi-sliders that allow for mixed values. Those seem to be working pretty good. However, I've noticed just now a bug that I'm going to try and fix with them. And then we'll move on. One of the... Let me make this guy 0 so I can see him in the middle. One of the elements that we needed to add to the sprite component inspector was the ability to assign a texture to be used for the sprite. So basically, you pick which texture, you pick the UV coordinates, you pick the yeah, that's actually it. I think that's those two things for the tiny little renderer we've got going. However, in order to be able to pick the texture, you need to be able to grab a file reference. And we started to do a really quick and dirty one, but we ran into some problems. Basically, I was thinking, well, let's do a quick and dirty open file dialog, and you just select the file, the same way you would select any other file. However, that doesn't really work very well for the inspector. The first reason is because it's clunky. It's inelegant. It's not it takes you out of the workflow. But the second and more practical reason why I couldn't even hack one together very quickly was because doing so would require me to do a lot of path wrangling. I need the paths to be portable, so I need them to use the virtual file system. So that is, instead of saying load, C, user documents and / whatever.png, you need to select it as relative to your game's content directory. And so internally, we just use the path C / whatever for your content directory. And if I was to go to... Here we go. Test game content. Open folder. So basically you would say C / whatever, and then C / by itself will get you into this folder. What we really want is we want a content picker. We want the ability to click a button, have a little window pop up, and let us pick from this folder or its subfolders what we want to reference. And that's going to be sort of complicated. Basically, we would need to be able to get all the file data from the operating system about which files are in this folder. We would need the ability to display relevant information about the content file. And in the future, we'll need to worry about import data, which is not something we've really touched on quite yet. But for example, when you go to import a texture, you don't want to just say, oh, here's the PNG and that's and that's it, and load it, please. You also want to be able to customize. Excuse me. Want to be able to customize certain elements with it. So, for example, that might be the place that you want to specify a minification or magnification filter. If it's an animated sprite and you want to do a custom loader for animations, you can extend the import process. If it's a font, then, like, for example, we're using Roboto. Sometimes when we do fonts inside of the game engine, you'll need to specify, like, what the minimum font scale is, things like that. And so in order to do all of that, we'll have to have a more of a complex content system. So I think what we're going to need to do, I'm going to wrap up a few things with the inspector, but I think we're going to go straight from here, working on the inspector, to working on the content drawer, this guy. It's just an empty window right now, but we want the ability to be able to navigate the content files of the project from the editor, so we can do things like drag and drop into the scene, into the hierarchy, or into an inspector field. So we'll start there, and once we've got a preliminary content drawer down, we will take that and encapsulate that data or present that data in a different way using a content picker. I'm going to open up Unity and Unreal and keep them open as references. Yeah, before we can get all that started, I've got a couple of things to chase down here. This wasn't something that I intended to do, but here we are. So let's do 0, 1, 0, 1. So you can see what happened right here. Sprites 1, 2, and 3 have differing UV values. So sprites 1 and 3 have all identical UV values, but sprite 2 has these separate values. And when I do a multi-selection including them, it correctly shows that only the first value is identical. It shows that the other 3 are mixed, and that's good. However, when I go to type in a new value like this, it doesn't do anything. So there's apparently a problem that we need to address still. Yeah, it doesn't seem to be affecting any of them. Does it affect position? Oh yeah, it doesn't even affect position. Yeah, so there's a bug. Let's sort that out, and then we'll clean up a little bit with the transform component and move on to the content drawer. Okay, so let's take a look at one of the fields. We'll look at the, this is going to be the UV section, but I didn't actually give it a name while we were working on it. So that's actually going to be here. But basically what we've got is we get all the sprites that have entities on them. Sorry, all the entities that have sprites on them, and then from there we get the addresses of all of the UV pointers inside of the pool, inside of the sprite pool, and then we pass those to the mixed drag float for. This is all the stuff that we did before. I'm going to go ahead and set a breakpoint in here somewhere. Where should I put it? I guess it'll have to be in the ImGui stuff, because I need it to be conditional on whether we've made a change. So where's the same line, push item flag, drag scalar? This is the one. Okay, so this is the, wait, this is, yeah, that's the one. Okay, so this is where we do an individual field in the multi-field. So one of these boxes. So this is where we identified, if we have a mixed value, we display a dash. So that code seems to be working correctly. However, we need to track if there's a change made to the value. And I think that was done. Yeah, I'm sure this was working before. I don't know how it got broken. Temp input scalar. I believe that's the one. There we go. Yeah, and here's the changes that we made before. We added a Boolean text entry used. So So whenever we apply data from the text, this gets set to true. And then if the value is mixed and text entry is used, or if the values differ, then we will return true, and we will mark item edited. That seems to be, that seems to be correct. The only other thing I can think of that might be a problem, this is something that I did offline. I did turn on an experimental flag. Config drag click to input text, and what this is this is a flag that if it's true, then if you single click on one of these fields, it'll allow you to type instead of having to double click on them or to control click on them. I don't know why that would matter though. Yeah, so this code only engages if temp input is active as false. So this doesn't even apply. Okay, I think I'm kind of remembering now. There was a second location where we had tried to change the text input. That was here, value changed. But it didn't appear to do anything, so I got rid of it. But maybe this is a edge case that matters. So temp input text is invoked before any of the rest of this. It wraps this function, input text ex. Which straight up returns false in a number of situations. So instead of tracking with a variable, it just returns. Okay, here we go. Return enter pressed, return value changed. Okay. So these two values matter. If flags and ImGui text flags return enter is true, or enter returns true, then we, okay, so that will always return true. Value changed. So value changed is what we need to worry about. If value changed and flags ImGui input text flags no mark edited is false. Okay, so where do we determine where value changed? So right down here is where we determine. All right. Copy result to user buffer. This can currently only happen when g.activeID equals ID. Okay. Apply new text length. If is resizable. Yeah, I'm a little confused. We have a check for whether a string exists. There's something called initial text A, backup of end user buffer at time of focus. Okay, so this has to do with the text that appears when you go to click on the field. Okay. It's resizable. The underlying buffer resize was denied or not carried to the next frame. Apply new text. Length +1 may be greater than or equal to buffer size. Okay, so this is an edge case. Value changed is only evaluated here because is only assigned to true because the buffer itself has been changed. Okay, so I think I'm following what happens here. We have a const char pointer variable. It starts out as null. It gets assigned a block of data if it's been modified. And so when they do the check for if apply new text is not equal to null, what they're doing is they're checking to see whether there was a change. Okay, but in all cases here, this returns true. Because if you're entering this block at all, then the last line, and there's no breaks out of here, the last line is value changed equals true. I'm going to set a breakpoint here. And then let's try and do modification via text. All right, and that broke on this line. That's good. So right now value changed is equal to true. So why wouldn't this update? Okay, I'm gonna set a breakpoint for farther down in the function, hit continue. Watch window shows that value changed equals true. Enter pressed should be false. It is false. So this method returns true. Value changed true. Which passes it out to this level. So we still have value changed true. Got it. Okay, so this is what happens. So the text is saying that the text box itself is saying that we have changed the content of the text. Down here, they do the memory comparison to see whether the value is true. And we actually did modify the logic there. So you would think bool mixed value equals g last item get data dot in flags, and mixed value is not equal to 0. So that's evaluated to true. Value changed equals mixed value, which is true, and text entry used, which is false. So the issue comes from here. Data type apply from text. Okay, we're slowly making progress. I'm going to hit a breakpoint there and hit continue again, and we'll step into it. Okay, so the buffer is got the number 1 in it because that's the digit that I typed. P data. I'll have to do some casting in the watch window in order to see the contents of it, so let's do that. This is a float field, so we'll see. We'll cast it as a float pointer, and it comes out as a value of 1. So the field itself contains a 1 in it. Okay, so we wind up on this line, return mem compare, data backup, p data, type info size. So comparing the value at the data backup, which we'll cast here, to a float pointer. So that's equal to a 1. P data is also equal to a 1. So this would have to be it. There's a memory comparison done here to see whether a change was done, which means that there's 2 memory comparisons being done, which I didn't expect, actually. Yeah, so I guess within data type apply from text, it does a memory comparison internally. And then we do another memory comparison down here. And this section here is the custom stuff I added. But it looks like the vanilla ImGui code does multiple memory comparisons. I wonder why they do that. It's a redundant check. Okay, well I guess the only thing to do would be to do a similar check here. This line is only invoked if temp input text returns true, and it does when you make a modification to the text. So oh, hang on. This line here, value changed, is only invoked if temp input text returns true in the first place. So we already know that text entry had been used. So why do I need this? I'm sure I added it in there for a reason, but it kind of looks to me like we only need to confirm whether this is a mixed field, and if the field is mixed, then we set value change to true anyway. So let's try that. Open up scene file. We'll select link here and we'll screw with his UVs. Make him just a hat. Select the first 3 sprites so it's multi-selected. Type in a number. And oh, that's right, that should be a 0. Okay, I think that did it. Okay, fixed the bug, I guess. I wonder why on earth. Yeah, multi-select seems to be working correctly now. I wonder why on earth I did it the other way. There must have been a reason. Maybe I should go back into the VODs and identify why I did that. But it seems to be working fine now. Cool. All right. So that's that bug resolved, I guess. Let's get back on track. Let's see. Cool. So the last couple of things to do is to clean up what we have in the inspector with all the work that we've been doing so far. So notably, we want to get the transform component to be using the API that we developed in our last string. That's going to be done with API ImGui. We were previously having to track whether something was mixed or edited. We can get rid of those now because the edits occur directly from our API call. We just need to pass in the pointers to all the values to change. For selected entity, entity pool, entity indices. I don't think we need that either. For a comparison, let's do a side-by-side on these. Because this is a implementation that we're going to mimic. So the first thing that we did is we got a list of all the entities with sprites. We don't actually have to do that here because we have a set of selected entities. We can just use that directly. And then they constructed vectors of float pointers pointing towards the data to modify. So in our case, we would need an STD vector, a float pointer, and this would be transform pause would be X, Y, and Z. We would populate this with the addresses of all the transforms to modify, and we would do the same thing for rotation and scale. For now, I think we're doing X, Y, and Z on the rotations. Row fields. Yeah, .x, .y, .z. We'll worry about fixing roll pitch yaw later. Excuse me. All right, and then we have scale, which is also X, Y, and Z. Probably shouldn't call these something like pointers, so that it's a little bit clearer to look at. Cool. So now we just need to go through all of the selected entities and populate these vectors with the correct addresses. We know from the get-go, that these will need there will be one of these for every selected entity. So when we go to declare them, I'm going to go ahead and allocate some memory. So we can do, I believe we can pass in an account and use a default allocator. And pass in a value as well, if we wanted to. So we're going to default initialize this. We're going to make this selected entities.size. So these will be constructed with the number of elements that we need. So we can do like a for loop through these selected entities. I would prefer to do a range based loop on these guys, though. That's the only problem. I wish there was a default constructor where I could pass in a number to reserve. Maybe there is one and I just don't remember. I guess what we could do is we could construct with the account, and then instead of addressing them by index, we would immediately erase, and then that memory would be reserved. Let's take a look at erase. Iterator first does not need to be dereferenceable if first equals last. Erasing an empty range is an OAuth. No, this isn't worth all of this. So what we'll do is we'll immediately after creating these, we will do a reserve. And we'll do this reserve for selected entities.size. And then on these, we'll default construct like that. All right, cool. And then we'll push back for every transform and so on. I guess that's what we wound up doing over here, but it feels a little weird to me that I can't, when I go to create the object, allocate the memory without populating the list. So, whatever. It's just a thing you can't do with vectors. But yeah, so we've got these ready to go. We just need to do a for loop. We'll look for every it'll be every entity ID within selected entities. So it would be for const entity ID WC in selected entities. All right, and then we'll need to get a reference to the entity. So that'll be like this. Let me change this name to be ID. And the reference will be entity pool at entity indices at ID. Right? So we have every selected ID. Well, we use it to get the index into the pool, and that gives us back the reference to the entity. Yeah, that makes sense. Cool. And then we basically push back value for each of these. Push back entity dot, and then we pass in the thing. So on these first three, we're passing in position dot x, y, and z, and we are passing in the address of them, so that way when they get edited by the inspector, they update the values directly in the pool. And then we don't have to worry about tracking down which fields were changed and reassigning them. So on the second block, we're using rotation. Though this is going to be Euler rotation hint, that's right, because we actually do have a value storing the x, y, and z for the Euler angles, like that. Okay, good. And then the last one is going to be scale dot, at x, y, and z, so on. Oops. Like that. Okay. Good. Okay, the rest of these can be deleted. We no longer need to identify the mixed fields. We also don't need to do all of this boilerplate, which we were doing before. We also don't need to go back and update the entities with edits. There is one small exception to that, though. We do need to worry about the rotation, because the rotation field... oh, that's an interesting... That's something I hadn't thought about. With the rotation field, we actually aren't doing a regular mixed field for this. The idea is that if any of the fields are mixed, they are all marked as mixed. So we actually might need to do a separate API for that kind of a thing. Or maybe, Yeah, I've got a couple of ideas for that, but that's not something we're going to deal with right now. What we'll do is we'll clear out all this bad code, which is no longer necessary. I'm going to put in a comment to do update rotation rotation quaternions. Because we're editing the Euler rotation, and the new API that we're using will automatically update the Euler rotation hint. But after that's done, we have to go back in and make sure that the quaternion actually updates to reflect the Euler angle, which is something we did manually in here before, but we'll have to do that a little separately. This other section here, other components, this is where we do the generic, where we go through every registered system and we invoke its onInspectorGUI callback. But cool, and then the rest of this should be a single line. We could be doing EP ImGui, mixed drag float for. And we just pass in the stuff that we wanted to do before. So in this case, it's position, and we pass in the fields. This is not a float 4, this is a float 3. There's only three of these guys. We pass in the transform pos x, transform pos y, transform pos z, and then the other values, which we'll leave at defaults. And then we'll do the rotation and scale. These could just be called pos x where we don't need the word transform in there. And then these would be rotation, and then these would be scale. Cool. All right, that's a much cleaner API, or a cleaner code to write. We can see clearly declaring the pointer vectors, we're reserving, we're populating, and then we are using. That's all that's needed. Let's confirm that this works. The rotations won't apply correctly because we still have to convert those back from the Euler hints, but there we go. Cool. But if we go to select these, the mixed fields appear mixed correctly. They appear to work correctly here. The speed is a lot faster than I had it set to before, but I'll fix that. And scale. The rotation's not working, but we already knew that. Scale's working. And then UVs still work as we weren't editing that code. Alright, cool. Now, this code is already so much nicer. So much boilerplate got cut out. But now we need to worry about a couple of things. The API, if we go to EP API, or EP ImGui.h, we have mixed drag floats, which will do a mix separate from, so every field is considered separate within the mixed field, or within the multi-field. So that is, your X can be considered mixed while your Y is not. I need, for rotations, the ability to mark the entire row of fields as mixed if a single element is mixed. So for that, we can probably just add a Boolean, honestly. Let's do that. Label, data type, pdata. Speed, min, max format. If I was making this as like a actual extension to the ImGui API rather than just a wrapper that is used only in this engine, I would consider adding an additional flag for this. So there'd be a flag for mixed, and then there's a flag for apply to all. Well, hang on. Maybe there's something like that actually. Let me take a look. Where's ImGui slider flags declared? ImGui.h is included here. Okay, here we go. None, always clamp, logarithmic. Yeah, that has nothing to do with this. Is there a, I wonder if there's an item flag for this. There's none. No tab stop, button repeat disabled, no nav default focus. Selectable, don't close pop-up. What does that mean? Disable menu items selectable automatically closing their pop-up window. Okay. Read-only and inputable. Auto-activate input mode when tab focused. Currently only used and supported by a few items. Okay. Yeah, so there's not a item flag for this. So that's fine. I will add this as a... It feels like this should be after the data. Because this flag is about the data. And then this is about the whole rest of the prototype is about the GUI itself. So let's do it here. Bool, unified How about, it would be like linked mix. Or mixes. Mixed statuses. Linked. I think it's pretty clear. It's a little wordy, but he said it's a true. All of the fields are considered mixed or unmixed at the same time. Okay. We would need to forward that from all of the wrapper functions, so we'll add those to the signatures as well. After the pointer to stuff. Oh wait, what am I doing? This is what I wanted to do, but I'm doing it at the wrong place. Because this is the drag scalar, which is what you use for one at a time drag scalars. I needed mixed drag scalar n to be modified, so we'll put it here. And here, and here. Cool. And then here, we have to forward along the Boolean. So we'll say like that. Whoops. And one more. Cool. So now all of the wrappers for the multi-drags forward mixed statuses linked to mixed drag scalar n. And now inside of its definition, seems to be having a hard time finding the implementation file. All right, here we go. We would add it to the definition as well, and then we need to do some modifications to this file. All right, we're making progress. There's always more stuff to get in the way of your next objective. Cool. Mixed status is linked. Now we have to... Oh, whoops, this is the wrong one. God. All right. This is the regular scalar. This is the multi-scalar. So we add bool. Mixed status is linked to it. All right, cool. Now within this function, we need to separately handle the case that all of the all of the statuses need to be linked. So we'll need to do a bool. We'll say bool at least one mixed. We'll default it to false. And then down inside of this loop, where we determine is mixed, if is mixed, we'll say at least one mixed equals is mixed, or equals true, I should say. And this will give us a flag at the end of all this logic to treat these all similar. So what we were doing before is we were iterating through each field, going, through however many fields there are, which is usually between 1 and 4 fields. And immediately after determining that if that field is mixed, we display the field and we work with it. However, in the case that the mixed statuses should be linked, this won't do because we don't know yet whether the rest of the fields are mixed. So we're going to have to do some conditional logic here. Immediately after doing this check, we'll have to do a branch. We'll do if mixed status is linked. We'll hit continue. And the reason why we're doing that is so that we will skip over the logic where we display the fields and set the values back. And we'll just iterate through the list again to do the display field. You know what? That's a little hacky. It's a little hard to follow. I'm going to do maybe the less optimal thing, but the more obvious to read thing, and take this logic completely out of this for loop, and we'll do a second for loop. But the trouble is that if we do it that way, then we actually have to store in a Boolean each individual field's status. So I guess that's what we'll have to do. This will be, I guess we could do it as a stack allocated or dynamically allocated array. So it'd be an STD array of type bool. The size of p data dot size. Will that work? No, because that needs to be known at compile time, right? So I'll have to actually do this as a vector. Bool, and we'll default initialize it to false. We'll do p data dot size, and the default value will be false. Oops. Right. Okay. Cool. Then in here, instead of tracking a field is mixed, we will say is field mixed, at I being the index into p data. Really? No no operator matches these operands. I don't know why it wouldn't, because it should be getting me a reference to the wrap allocator internal big int. What's an std vb reference? What is that? Transition ABI and pathish functions accepting a file system path or blah blah blah. That's not important. I should actually open up a project for Unity and Unreal so that I can have them ready when I need them. Okay, so for whatever reason, this isn't giving me back so I can't or equals the reference I get back for the Boolean. That's a little weird, but whatever. In this case, we're not dealing with anything super complicated. So what I'll do for this instead is I'll say if mCompare, doing the comparison for the field value and the value of between the first and the second. Between the first, second, first, third, and so on, the first and the second through nth. If that returns non-zero, then it's a mixed field. And we would say is field mix equals true, and then break out of this loop. Okay, cool. So we're iterating through every field. We set the field changed. What do we use field changed for? We don't use it for anything anymore, not in this loop. We use it for the second loop. All right. So we determine if the field is mixed. And then we'll say we'll say at least one mixed equals true. So we'll set this to be true whenever we set any of them to be true. And then we'll loop through again. We'll say display field. Or we'll say compose field. And we'll loop again through all the fields, and we know in advance now whether the field is mixed. Good. All right, and then down here, we don't use is mixed anymore. We'll say is field mixed, and we'll use the index I. So if field is mixed, we don't have to set at least one mixed true here anymore. We'll push the item flag, and we will add the drag scalar, and we'll set field changed to be the return of that value. Otherwise, we'll just do the drag scalar, not marking it with the mixed value ImGui flag. Good. Pop the ID, pop the width, and move on to the next if field changed, we do a mem copy from the field value to the value itself, which is all of the pointers from p data. So that's looking good. Oh, but this is going to be a little bit tricky. Because if any single field changed, we need to update everything. But yeah, no, we don't. No, we don't. Because we'll still return true to say that one of the fields had changed. But by definition, if the field wasn't modified, then doing the copy would be just replacing identical data anyway. Okay, so that's looking good. All right, cool. The last thing we got to do, and the whole point of this exercise, is we need to utilize mixed statuses linked. So when we go down to display the field, we would say if is field mixed, or mixed status is linked and at least one mixed, we'll use the mixed field. So that is if a single field is mixed and the mixed statuses are linked, then every field will use the mixed value flag, which is what we want. So in the case of the rotation, if two selected entities differ only by the rotation about the y-axis, the x and the z axes will also be marked as mixed, which is what we want. Cool, I think everything else is the same. We return value changed already. Cool, all right, that's looking good. So is that. And then we'll need to update the use of so in the header where we use mixed status is linked, we'll want to set some defaults for those. So we'll set them all to false by default. With the exception of the mixed drag scalar n. Though maybe I should. No, that should require that you pass through. Okay, cool. All right. Now for the rotation. Where's the rotation? Here it is. So now what we can do with rotation is we do the same logic as before. We get the addresses of all of the values that we need to represent and change. We pass them in for each field, and then we pass in true for mixed status is linked, and this will make it so that any one of these fields, if it's mixed, causes all the other fields to get mixed. Alright, moment of truth time. Press F7 to build. Alright, that builds correctly. Let's open the scene file. Bam. Select some entities. The mix fields appear to be working. No, there's a problem though. What's going on here? So I went to click and drag, and these are being reset back to 0, which I wasn't expecting. And in fact, even by themselves, when I click and drag, they're being set back to 0. So I must have screwed something up when I split the for loop up. So let's step through the logic again. Alright, so we get the window. If window skipped items returns false. We get the ImGui context for things like the mixed flag. We have a boolean for value changed, which is also our return value. We begin the group, push the label, push multi-item widths, get the type size, get the field value, or we allocate the field value. I'm going to put that up top for clarity. We have a vector booleans for is field mixed. We allocate 1 for each field, and we set them all to false. At least one mixed is false. We go through every field. We assert that that field, or we assert that the field has at least one pointer. We copy the first element inside of pdata to field value. We then loop through all of the pointers in the field. We do a comparison against the field value, which is the first selected value. If it's non-zero, then we set the field mixed to be true, and at least one mixed is true. Okay, so far so good. And then we loop through the fields again. We track whether that specific field has been modified. Push its ID, ImGui same line. If the field is mixed, or we're linked and at least one field is mixed, then we do the mixed appearance. Otherwise, we do the default appearance. Appearance and behavior, I should say. And then down here if the field changed, we mark the value as changed, which is the return value. We're saying that a value has changed. I should rename that. That should be instead of value changed, which implies there's only one value. It should be I guess it'd just be values changed, which indicates that this is 0 or more values changed. All right, pop ID, pop item width, set values back have changed. And this might be where we're getting screwed around, because this is where everything up above looked so good. If the field changed, then we want to copy the values back. I don't know though, that looks fine to me. I don't see the problem. No, I don't see the problem at all. So we're gonna have to find a way to debug this specific section. So I guess I'll need to do a conditional breakpoint. Because I want to inspect this while I'm clicking and dragging to edit. I have curiosity. Okay, this is telling. We have the test drag set up here. And we have some interesting behavior when I click and drag on these. When I click and drag on the Z, all three values update to match. When I click and drag on the middle, the Y and the Z values will change, but then they'll immediately find their way back to 73, which is the value was set for the final value. Let's step through this real quick. Okay. So, pdata has got 3 elements in it. Those elements being the X, Y, and Z integers. We do a mem copy to field value. I'm going to add these to the watch window. So we'll cast the field value to a int pointer. Is that not right? type name is not allowed. Oh, it's supposed to be like that. Okay. So currently they're all displaying 40, which doesn't add up actually. Let's do p data 0 as an int pointer. Oh, right. 0 at I. Oh, that's yeah. It's also 40. Where are we getting 40 from? The number displayed in the editor is 70 something. 73. All right, so we're seeing a field value of 40, which apparently matches the internal value of the first field. It looks like all the fields actually do have differing values. They just all say the same value. Let's take out the breakpoint for a moment and take a look. So I'm clicking and dragging a set to 96 on the right. Clicking and dragging left on this one, and then I'm clicking and dragging left on this one some more. Let's engage the breakpoint again and then re-examine this data. The values are very close, but they are different. So they're getting reset back to the same value, but they're not. Maybe there's like a frame delay where it's not quite back to the same value when I let go. set a breakpoint on this when we track if any field has changed. Because I want to know what happens when we try to get into the memory copy. So let me clear these breakpoints. Hit continue. And then here where we say if field changed. Actually, I'll just set a breakpoint within. And then click and drag. All right, field changed. The field we're on is gone down to 93. How many values did we have per field? 3. So each field represents 3 values. So in the inspector, I'm inspecting all 3 for the first field. Then all 3 for the second field. Then all 3 for the third field. Okay, so we can see that as I step through the memcopy loop, all 3 values for the first field get updated. Oh, that's the... Okay, I found it. I spotted the problem. The field value is not being updated. Okay, so previously this was all in the same loop. Every loop I would set the field value to be equal to the first value in... the first value pointed to by the field. However, when I broke this up into 2 loops, I forgot to do this, where we have to start setting the field value again in the second loop. Otherwise, it'll always be pointing towards the last, that is the rightmost or the Z component of the multi-field. Okay. All right, F5. Build and run, please. Cool. All right, now the inspector is working for the text mix drag again. Let's open up the scene and confirm that these other components have started to work better. It looks like they have. These sprites are doing multi stuff correctly. Is rotation doing anything different? Okay. It appears so. So, right now all the rotations in the scene, I'll reload the scene. All the rotations in the scene are 0, 0, 0. So it's no surprise that when I go to select them all, that the fields do not show as mixed. If I make a change to 1 and do a multi-selection, all 3 fields screw up. If I click and drag, then I'm modifying all 3 fields again. And that seems to be working correctly. Okay, there is a catch though. Clicking and dragging on the middle one, it's not setting the values for the others because this is a field in which none of them differ. Okay, so there's a little bit more work to do. Ugh. All right. So this business here, we were setting the values back if the field had changed. We need to expand this so that it's not just if the field changed, it's if any field changed. Okay, and the only way for us to know if any field has changed is if we go through the loop at least once. So we're going to need to break this into a third for loop. Okay. Making progress though. So what we'll need to do is we'll need to do this. Below this for loop, we'll do another one. Not forgetting to set to memcopy the value from the front to the field value. Actually, I don't think we're going to be using field value because we're just doing this basically. Control X, Control V. Okay. All right, and then field changed. So instead of doing a single Boolean within this scope, that is the field changed, we need to do a vector of bools the way that we did for is mixed field. So we'll do that in between here. Std vector bool is mixed, or wait, sorry, is field changed. Will default allocate data size. Actually, I'll explicitly allocate to false, or explicitly initialize to false. Then we'll do a bool is any field changed. And actually these will go, no, they belong here. So is field changed, we'll set to, well, first we'll get rid of that Boolean. And then instead of doing field changed, we'll do is field changed at I, where we're tracking for each individual field. Okay, and then I guess we don't need a is any field changed because values changed the return variable. That's something that we're already tracking. I can put this though down here because we don't use it until the second for loop. Do we use the context? G.style. We actually don't use it either until the second for loop, so I'll bring it down. Like that. Okay, all right. Doing pretty good. And of course this is field changed at I. Okay, if field changed, if is field changed at I, or values changed, we will do the mem copy. All right, cool. No, actually, it would be it, or this is going to be a compound. So this will be mixed value, mixed statuses linked, and values changed. So if the field itself is changed, then we do the copy. If otherwise, if we have mixed statuses linked, and the values are changed, then we will do a mem copy. All right, I think we're there. I think that's it. I can break this up a little bit. Okay, yeah. That's pretty clear. All right, I think that's it. Let's see what happens. Okay, got some sprites. I'll change the rotation on one. Oh, we got the same bugs before. Did I? I did. I used field value in the last loop. So let me do the mem copy. Yeah, I used it in this mem copy down there. So we'll say mem copy on type size. All right. Recompile and run again. Cool. Scene. 2D scene. Okay, we'll modify. Oh, what? There's now. Okay, so now we got a slightly different problem. All of the rotation values are being reset to 0. Oh, right, because the field value now. So I'm actually discarding the field value when you go to make a change, because I'm no longer doing within the same loop. All right, so we're gonna have to do a little bit of code duplication, but that's okay in this case, in my opinion. What we'll do is we will do an is values, or is field changed within the second for loop. So we go to display the field. Is field changed, we will, if is field changed, then we will do the memcopy. Right away. And then after we're done, we'll iterate through, and if mixed status is linked and values changed, then we do the copy for all of them. All right, I think I've got an idea. I'm going to conditionalize the for loop here, so that way we're not doing extra mem copies. Actually, this would be down here. All right, so here's the idea. When we've displayed the field, we'll store the value, the changed value. In the case of mixed statuses, we don't actually need to fill all the variables out yet, because we're going to be doing that anyway down below. So what we'll do instead is we'll just store the field value back into pdata i.front, meaning that the first variable that we need to change is changed, but none of the rest. Otherwise, we will do a for loop and go ahead and directly save all of them, and then call it done. And then, at this point, if mixed statuses are linked, we will do the for loop to do the copy. We'll loop through all of the fields. We will get the field value, which is going to be the pdata front, which we set up here. And then we do the loop through all of the variables and do the copy. Okay. And this will be make statuses linked and values changed. All right, looking good. F7 to build. F5 to play. Oops. Open scene. And we're able to set the rotation value again. And if we do a multi-select, we're able to directly edit all of them at the same time. That looks good to me. Cool. All right, so that wound up being a significant amount of work. And this is something that I would have had to have done later, so I'm glad I'm doing it now. So now the multi-fields, they have the ability to link their mixed statuses. And we're using them for the transform component, which is making that code a lot easier to read. Now the last thing would be we need to update the quaternion rotations. So in the case of rotation, we'll actually need to get the return value of mixed drag float 3. So we'll say bool is rot changed equals mixed drag float 3 rotation blah 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 blah. And then if is rot changed, we go through all the rotations and update them. So that would be for each I guess it would be for all selected entities. I'll just copy the code from above. Like this. We go through all the selected entities. And then entity dot rotation. This is the quaternion version. We'll say rotation equals glm quat, and we can pass in the Euler angles, which is or you know what, I can actually probably do scene manager rotate, set entity rotation, yeah. Which can take a quaternion or a vec3 for the rotation. Do I have this documented? I didn't see very clear documentation from IntelliSense. I guess I did, but it didn't. Oh, but I didn't actually write everything I needed to. The entity's new rotation in expressed as a quaternion, and then expressed in Euler angles. Cool. And then back in the inspector, we go to set the rotation. We set the ID, which is going to be entity, and then the Euler angle rotation, which is entity dot. Wait, that's not right. ID, and then entity dot Euler rotation int. Yeah, does that work? That working good? Oh, but I don't need to assign anything because this is just I had changed my mind about what I was doing in the middle of doing it, and that's what we got. So that's actually pretty straightforward. In fact, it's so straightforward, I wonder if I've overlooked a thing. Let's compile and check, see if it works. Hopefully what we'll be seeing is that the rotations have started to work in the viewport again. Okay, open scene. Go to the scene view. And there we go. Got some rotations going again. The speed is a little bit high when you go to click and drag. I think it's like every pixel I drag, it's moving 1 whole degree. Which kind of gives you this appearance of just like really fast rotation. But if I hold down the Alt key, it's a little bit better. Cool. And then that all seems to, the multi-editing seems to work the way I wanted it to. Do some multi-editing on the Z-axis. Nice. Okay. Cool. So let's tweak the speed on these, and then we'll call it good for the newfangled ImGui thing. I'll get rid of the test mixed drag. We don't need it anymore. And so now we've got some really clean code for the transform components. So the last thing to deal with is here. We need to add speed. So currently speed is 1.0. We'll say test speed. I'll do this as a hot constant to do some rapid tweaking. Or we'll say transform drag speed. And then I'll take and declare this as a static. I can do that right here. So we'll say static, hot constant, transform drag speed, int, transform, float, transform drag speed, and we'll set that equal to 0.5 to begin with. And then I got to include hot constants. For that to work. Come on. Good. Alright, so that should work fine. Seem like that. Alright, and then we'll just play around with it and see what feels best. Cool. So, clicking and dragging. This is at 0.5, still feels a little bit fast. We'll set it to 0.25. Feels a little bit better. Still kind of fast. How about 0.15? 0.1? Okay, 0.1 is starting to feel pretty nice. I'm gonna go a little bit further though. Go to 0.05 and see what that's like. Okay, that's starting to feel slow, but it's not horribly slow to be frank. I think we're gonna need to come up with a better solution for this because I feel like I should be able to change the speed at which this works while I'm using it. Which might mean that I need to do something custom. How does Unity do it? Well, Unity doesn't give me any control, but it does go at a pretty slow speed. I'd say that feels very similar to what mine feels like. A little bit faster, actually. Yeah. 0.1 feels pretty much like Unity's feels. And then in Unreal, in Unreal, if I take a thingy and click and drag, I think the scale of this scene is actually way, way bigger. How big is it? 3 units, 3 by 3. And how big are my sprites? 2 by 2. So if I was to take all of these, set their scale to be 3 by 3 by 3. Well, yeah. So this is a comparable size. I guess it does use a constant speed. And interestingly, there's not even a way for me to fine-tune the drag. So if I, well, actually there's a little bit. If I push up and down, oh, never mind. I thought I was doing up and down as a slow movement, but it's actually just me subtly moving left and right. So yeah, I guess both Unity and Unreal do constant speed. So I guess I'll have to deal with that. But okay, so if I hold down Shift while dragging in Unity, it'll go at a faster speed. That's something I may want to add in mine. But for now I'm satisfied. I'll take and leave this at 0.1. In fact, I'll leave it as a hot. I'll leave it in the code as a hot constant for the moment, just so that I can tweak it later if I want. This is in the inspector code, so it's not going to suffer from any hot reloading issues if I close to open a new project. Sweet. So I think that's it. For the sprite component stuff, we are going to leave that as it is. Oh, where's my transform? My transform section's missing its collapsible header. Did I delete it? Oh, I must have done on accident. Whoops. Let's copy that out. Let me compare. file compare with... Is there really not a compare active file? Huh. Let's go to the get history. And view it. If ImGui collapsing header transform. Okay. There we go. And now we've got the headers. So yeah, I think we're good for the inspector now, finally. It took 2 hours and 10 minutes actually to wrap that up, because it turned out that this was actually a little bit more complicated to wrap up than I thought it would be. But now we've got the API working well for things like rotation, where you need to have the entire field be marked as mixed. Or all 3 fields be marked as mixed, if one of them is. Cool. So for now, we're going to put renderer 2D on the back burner, as well as its inspector view, because one of the primary components that it needs is it needs a content picker, and that kind of needs to wait for us to have the content drawer working. So we're finally working on the title of the stream, but we're 2 hours in, so I'm gonna take a quick break before I do that. So I'll be back in like, I don't know, 10 minutes or something. Get something to drink. And when we come back, we'll start looking at getting the content drawer working. Now this is going to be a multi-day project. In fact, to get it done well, it'll probably be the better part of a week. But gotta start somewhere. See you in a minute. Alrighty. Where was I? Cool. All right. So we've got all this back up and running again, working in a satisfying way. Now we've got to do the content drawer. So we already do have a content window. My intention is for this to eventually be something like the UE5 content drawer. I'm singularly impressed with its design, because as you're working on levels and things, you're going to be getting inside of the content drawer constantly. I don't know if I'll call it the content drawer, but it makes a lot of sense to be able to just toggle it open. In the case of UE5, that's done with control space, and then you can just grab whatever you want, and you're suddenly working with it. So what elements go into a content drawer? Well, first there's a file navigation section, and there's a file selection section. This is something that's there's going to be a whole bunch of customization that you can do, because you can do different view types in a lot of these things. We're essentially imitating what File Explorer does or what Finder does. We're going to start with the very basic. We're just going to list the files inside of the project content directory inside of Enterprise. Though I do want to bring, just to keep this a well-rounded discussion, I do want to compare this against the way that the project tab works in Unity. It displays the contents of your assets and your packages folders. This has to do with the way that package managers work. You load up your packages, and then you have access to them separately from your assets. Though in practice, a lot of folks who are uploading things to the Unity Asset Store, they don't put it in the proper location inside of packages. They'll put it inside of your assets folder when you go to import it, which is why I have the separate _project in my assets folder. But it's the same principle. It just displays all that stuff there. And you can also do a split view, if I'm remembering correctly. 2-column layout like this. So 1-column layout is just the single list on the left-hand side, and then the right-hand side you can do different views. You can do filters, you can do tags, you can do a search, and if we do I'm trying to remember where you do the change. You can change the view to be icons. Oh, you have to drag this up from nothing. And so if you go to select materials, shaders, or whatever materials, you can actually see a preview inside of the thing. So we'll start with the basics. We'll start with listing in text all the files inside of the content folder. Back in Enterprise, let me dock the content view. I'll do this as a side panel for the moment, like this. And then quit, minimize these other windows. And we'll need to add an API that gets the stuff inside of the content folder. Or do we? We have the ability to get the content path. So we could just do, for example, if we include enterprise / file.h. With file.h, we can do ep file virtual path to native, and then just do like this. Oops. And this will literally just get us the content folder path. And then we could use file system stuff like C++ or C style stuff to get all the files inside of the path. That'd be one way to do it. People who are using Enterprise, making custom editors that might need access to the files inside of the content folder, they're probably they're going to be using C++ 17 because the engine uses that. Maybe what we could do is we could just assume that everybody can figure this stuff out for themselves for populating lists of files. We could do our own API where it's like you include enterprise editor file or something like that, and then all of a sudden you have access to stuff useful for the editor file manipulation. And then it would be something along the lines of editor file get content files or something like that, and then it would just like return you like a list of that stuff. I think that's reinventing the wheel a little bit. What I will do is I'll add a better function than this, because you can certainly do this. You can pass in c/ and get the path to the content folder. What I think I'm going to do instead I could either do ep file get content dir, or I could do an editor specific thing. It would be like editor file get content dir. I guess it would make sense for folks to want to access the contents directory straight from the game code, and the result would be the same. So while the project's loaded in the editor, the contents directory is overloaded to be the location of the project's content folder. But in a shipping game, it will be either inside of the app bundle or inside of the installation location, depending on your platform. Yeah, you know what, let's add it to the file.h. Let me open that up real quick. So we got virtual path to native exists, error code to string, load text file, save text file, generate temp file. Okay, so underneath virtual path to native, I'll do EP API. We'll get an std string. This will be get content dir factory. Takes no parameters. We'll do the documentation for it right now. So what you could do is that you could get the content directory string, and then you would prepend that to, well, you would pass that to your search function to populate your list of files if you're doing a search. If you're doing an algorithm that affects the contents directory, you can do that. For example, if you have like an extension to the editor that like sorts the files in some way or something along those lines. Or maybe yeah, I think that's fine. Okay. Obtain the absolute path to the game. Contents directory, the absolute path to the game directory. I'll say note. The return value will always have a trailing slash. All right, cool. And then this should be simple enough to implement. In fact, we could probably even inline it, but in order to keep it private from the public header, I'm just gonna do it in the CPP file. So let me copy the signature, go back to the implementation file, and then we'll implement it down here like this. And then we'll simply return contents dir path, which I believe I do actually have to double check that it does. Yeah, content ensure paths end with slashes. That's the rule. Okay, so we'll always have a backslash or a forward slash on the end of it. Cool. And then right, and I was just doing a double check to make sure that we do always enforce forward slashes in these paths. Which I should probably note in the API as well. Path will use forward slashes as the delimiting character even on Windows. All right, cool. And then that's good. And now we have a thing that we can use. We can say ed file get content directory like that. If you spell it right. There we go. And then inside of the content folder, we can use this in conjunction with the file system API. I'll say using fs equals sd file system, and then we can do the fs blah 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 blah, right? Or is that how that works? No, that's not how that works. I always forget. I completely lost track of what I was looking at. Right. STD file system. I haven't actually used STD file system for this purpose before, so I'm kind of glossing over it. Basically want to use I'm sure what I'm looking for is here, I'm just not seeing it for some reason. Directory iterators, that's what we do. Okay, so we convert the path, the contenter path to so we convert the contenter path into an STD file system path. Then we create directories on it, even though the directory is already in existence. Then we can iterate through. So we construct the iterator. This is a little confusing. So we construct an iterator from the path, from Sandbox. And then you iterate through that iterator. Doesn't that make dir entry the iterator? I mean, it's not an iterator because it's a range-based for loop, but you know what I mean. Yeah, it's interesting. I guess you have to construct the iterator. So you construct the path, then you construct the iterator, and then you can iterate through the iterator, which is crappy language, but I guess that's how you do it. All right, so back in this file, I know that I can do it's like using thing equals type ID. Oh, do I have to do using namespace? Or I know that there's a way to do this, and I'm just not thinking of it right now. And in fact, I'm sure that they have it in a lot of their code examples. Namespace. Okay, so we declare namespace equals. That's a little weird. FS. So it is a namespace that we're assigning to be equal to. It's an alias for namespace. All right, and now we can do FS : and so on and so forth. It looks like this is actually the first time we have had to use file system. Do I not have it in my precompile header? Oh, I don't think I used precompile header on the editor. The engine, I have a whole bunch of headers in the precompile header list. Maybe I should set them as precompiled in the editor as well. What's the list? fairly sizable. And file system's in there. Yeah, so I'll add this precompiled header list to the editor. So we'll do parent scope. This is the engine CMake list, so I take the list of precompiled headers that it uses, I put it in the parent scope so that way we can see it inside of the editor's CMake list. And then we'll need to add the precompiled header. With target precompiled headers. Just copy the line and update it in the editor's stuff. So here's the build flag settings. Most of the build flags is just installation stuff for Mac OS. Because we have to add them as custom commands in order to deal with Xcode's signing business. I think that's all we need, actually. But I'll do it at the top of all the conditional stuff up here. Target precompiled headers, editor, private, engine, precompiled headers. All right. Our configuration's done. Inside of here, we've now got all the file system stuff from the precompiled header. Cool. Let me make sure that everything still compiles. Okay, that did break something. Really? Unknown type? That doesn't make a lot of sense. Unknown type U864T. Because I added a precompiled header? Doesn't make a lot of sense. This is really confusing. All of a sudden, all these, oh, hang on. All of these errors are arising from inside of the engine. So the problem arises from me making it a parent scope, I guess. Which doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Yeah, engine source application.cpp, no member named cout in namespace std. Suggesting that the CPP files in the engine are no longer getting the precompile headers. Why not? Let's refer to CMake. Okay, parent scope. If the parent scope option is given, the variable will be set in the scope above the parent scope. Each new directory or function creates a new scope. This command will set the value of variables in the parent directory or calling function, whichever is applicable. The previous state of the variable's value stays the same in the current scope. E.g., if it is undefined before, it is still undefined, and if it had a value, it is still that value. see anything in here to suggest that it shouldn't work. And I've been using it successfully. At least I thought. But what else do I use it for? So this is the list of engine headers, and these are headers that get copied in the installation step, and I know that that works. So let me delete cache and reconfigure. Just reconfigure the whole thing and try building again. Okay, so it sounds like once I put it in the parent scope, it's not available in the local scope, which is unexpected to me. Because I haven't defined it in the local scope, so you'd think that it would use the one that's available in the parent scope. The previous state of the variable's value stays the same in the current scope. So what, I have to define it twice? This is really annoying. So I guess I had to set it in the parent scope and then also in the local scope. Alright. I guess that's what I'll have to do. So inside of the engine. Now that I'm understanding this, I'm wondering if this has to do with the CMake tools issue we saw before, where I was getting red squiggles for unexpected reasons. I'll come back to that. But for now, what we'll do is we'll eliminate the parent scope call. We'll set the variable locally, or set the parent scope variable to be identical to the local scope. Like that. It's a little annoying, but if this works, I'll have to do some restructuring maybe inside of my CMake lists. Okay, and then same thing down here. Separates the precompile headers now. Okay, we're getting there. And then okay. Okay, that's looking pretty good to me. Huh, yeah, I wonder what that's about. Anyway, Control S, it's regenerating build files, F7 to rebuild the project. Okay, it seems to be finding those headers now. That's interesting. I'll have to take another look at that. There's an open issue in the CMake tools project regarding issues with finding header files when they're when the corresponding CPP file hasn't been opened yet, and I tagged on to that, but I'm wondering if that's arising now because my header files, which I had been putting as part of CMake list variables inside of the engine scope, maybe they weren't available inside the engine scope the way I thought they would be, because I use parent scope. I don't know, we'll come back to that. Anyway, that's compiled. So we're back up to running. And then now that we've got this working, we can do fs directory iterator, and we can construct it with the path from get file get content directory. And we'll say this normally takes a path. I'll just pass in a string, which should construct it, and that'll be using this guy. Like that. Does that give me squiggles. Doesn't look like it, so now I can do for each file in content dir, and that should come out as a directory entry. I should make that explicit actually, like that. We can do ImGui text and then output the formatted text, which is, I think that's %s, and then we do file dot path dot c string. Dot c string? No suggestions? Come on. Is that? Oh, it's a function. Okay. And then I can do c string. Like that. Cool. Let's see how that goes. Okay. Well, there's something. We got t instead of the actual path. Format specifies car star, but the argument has type const std file system path value type, aka const wide character type. Okay, so I have to narrow that. The file system is going to come back with a wide character, and I need to pass that. I need to bring that down. So I have a helper for this in platform helpers. Platform helpers for Windows, I have wide character UTF-8 and vice versa. I might want to make this a general helper call. For the moment, even though this is not portable, I'll include Enterprise Core Platform Helpers 132, and then I can take this C string and wrap it. Well, I can take this path and I can wrap it in what's the call? wcard UTF-8. And then this. Oh, I guess I do have to do dot C string. And then this I will do dot C string. So what this is doing is it's taking the path, getting a wide character string out of it. We're converting that into a UTF-8 STD string. We're getting the UTF-8 C string out of that. We're passing that to ImGui text. Try that again. Okay. Test game / content / depth render. Now it starts at test game because that's the root directory. That's the working directory. So any and all calls. Oh, I suppose I should. I suppose that inside of the file.h or this one. This is not actually the absolute path. It's not always going to be the absolute path. It'll be an absolute path when possible. So in a shipping game, it will be, but when you're working inside of a project folder, it'll be relative, or I should say, when you're sandboxed to the editor, it'll be relative to the editor repository. Yeah, that's better. But cool. So we've got the very basic. We've got a list of all of the files inside. Is that recursive? I suppose there's not a folder in here, so we'll have to double check. Let me do new folder, test. And then inside of that, paste a file. Test. I don't see it. So I see the folder, test, but I don't see the file inside of it, so I'll need to make that recursive. Remember that this is updating every frame, so actually it'll take in update live whenever I change the contents of the directory, it'll reflect here. But let's make that recursive. How do I do that? So there's another type that's recursive directory iterator. That's what I want. I think though that this is going to have to be where I stop today, because we're at 3 hours and I got a late start, so it's 6 p.m. But and we'll have to move forward from there. Yeah, okay, there we go. So we got test game / content / test. And then it's got a backslash for the next directory, which isn't great. Okay, I guess it'll just have to be backslashes when using std file system. That's okay for me. That's okay for now. But yeah, we've got the content / test / example. So we do know that this is loading up recursively. I can make changes. Every time I add a file to this folder, it shows up in this list. And that's, step one, I suppose. Most of the day was not actually spent on the content, it was just spent on the stuff we were dealing with in the inspector. But you know what, we are still much farther along than we used to be. So I'm going to take today as a win. Today, nobody showed up, but if you're watching this on VOD, I appreciate it. Talk to you later.